All right, so Joe Rogan did another one of his fight companions recently for UFC 293, and he had on Brendan Schaub, Bryan Callen, and Sam Tripoli. And like usual, Joe kept getting annoyed with Bryan, and he kept making fun of him. And, you know, some of it is like a friendly thing where he's just goofing on him, but there's some points where you could tell Joe was really frustrated with him. Like, there's a clip from this podcast that kind of went viral on Reddit where Bryan calls out Joe for being a Putin shill, and obviously Joe was not happy about that, and you could tell he was pissed at Bryan. And while Joe was telling Bryan he's being annoying, there's a random cut in the stream, and then it just went to them watching the fight. So it seemed like Joe might have given Bryan a talking to. But first I'm going to start with another clip. I'm going to start with something lighter. You know, this is Joe goofing on Bryan for being a mooch. I guess Bryan's always trying to take people's food, and he won't even ask first. He'll randomly just go over to somebody's plate and like cut off a piece of steak and eat it. Joe claims that's happened to him before, and of course Bryan's denying it, but Joe seems pretty serious about it, and I doubt he's just making this up out of nowhere. And he said he's heard other people complain about the same thing, so it sounds like this is a normal occurrence from Bryan, but I doubt anybody ever calls him out on it. So when Joe calls him out, he's all shocked, like, what, that doesn't happen. Just like with the tough guy thing too, you know, when Joe gave him an intervention for that, he was acting like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm just goofing around. But Joe clearly sees what's going on here, and Bryan, he's probably just gotten away with doing this stuff for such a long time. It's normalized for him, and he just thinks he can go around eating people's food all the time. And it's so funny, like in this clip, Joe's treating Bryan like he's a dog. Like Bryan sees this gold coin, he's like, oh, what's this? And Joe's like, it's chocolate, don't eat it, put it down right now. And then Joe just starts going off on how Bryan's always trying to eat people's food without asking. And of course Bryan's all surprised, like, I would never do that. But it sounds like Brendan notices this as well. He's like, yeah, it's so rude when he does that.
Gold coin?
No, that was here. Somebody left this here. I forget who gave it to me. Yeah, don't eat it. Put it down. Put it down.
Put it down.
I bet it's
You eat everything.
You ate a shrimp.
Oh yeah, I took one shrimp.
You don't even ask, though. You just reach and grab people's food.
Okay. No, I didn't.
You always do that. You always take a cut of people's steak. Tell me he doesn't. Tell me he doesn't.
I've never done that in my life.
You do that.
I've taken
all the
I've taken
time.
a cut of your steak.
Oh my God! Let me try some of that. You've done that.
Here.
Oh my God!
When have I ever done that?
I've heard people complain about it, and I'm like, oh my God, he did it to me.
Wait, I've heard people complain.
It's your thing,
That's
dude.
my room. That's the room.
You cut people's food and you eat it.
That's the word on the street.
Yeah.
Bryan eats
People
people's
are
food.
talking.
You're like,
dude.
that looks good. Let me try that. Like, hey,
I bully into other people's plates.
not bully, just mooch.
I just moved.
It's a mooch move. Somebody gave that to me.
What
I forget what it is. Yeah, why
Better
don't
be
you
real
open it? I
cold.
told you not
I
to
did
open
it.
it.
It just came
Go
off.
back his
Bullshit.
chocolate. Jeez,
Oh, you opened the fucking
please,
chocolate?
bro.
I did take your sake. It's good. This is good sake. Soto,
Yeah.
super
Oh
premium.
yeah, his chocolate's all fucked up.
Your chocolates. You opened my chocolate.
Yeah, you gotta
Piece of
fucking
shit.
keep it sealed, bro.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so then also throughout this podcast, Sam Tripoli kept trying to go off on conspiracy theories, but Bryan would try to shut him down every time. So then, of course, Joe was getting really annoyed with him for doing that. But before I get into that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Manscaped.com, the global men's lifestyle brand that's disrupting the men's grooming market. Manscaped is trusted by more than 9 million men worldwide for their trimmers, liquid formulas, and premium boxers. And their 4th generation electric trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade designed to reduce grooming accidents and has a 4000K LED spotlight for when you need more of a precise shave, which is obviously important to have when you're grooming down there. You do not want any accidents, and with the Lawnmower 4.0 is the best way to avoid that. And their Performance Package 4.0 also includes the new Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and ear hair trimmer, and they even throw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package, the Manscaped Anti-Chafing Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So if you want to get started today, make sure you head over to manscaped.com and you can get 20% off plus free international shipping when you use code TOOLAZY at the checkout. Again, that's 20% off plus free shipping with promo code TOOLAZY at manscaped.com. Make sure you go check it out. All right, so back to Bryan Callen getting on Joe Rogan's nerves. So like I said, throughout the podcast, Sam kept going off on conspiracy theories, but Bryan kept interrupting him and being patronizing about it. And then eventually Sam just stopped talking because he could tell Bryan was just being annoying about it. But Sam must be used to it at this point because him and Bryan have a podcast together together. So I'd imagine it's pretty similar to this. And I think I did see Bryan and him got in a fight recently and Bryan walked off. So I'm sure these two have got to be getting annoyed with each other at this point. But since they're on Joe's podcast here, Joe loves hearing about conspiracy theories and he also loves making fun of Bryan. So when Sam's going off about Chinese weather modification and Bryan keeps interrupting, Joe's like, Bryan, let him talk. Like, don't you know how this works? And Bryan, you could tell he doesn't know what to do. He does this like awkward, sarcastic laugh thing. But it seems like Bryan's just like Joe's punching bag at this point, except later on we'll see he does stand up for himself, but it doesn't go very well.
Big thing you guys got to look into is weather modification and what the Chinese are doing. I did an insane episode on it, and I had this, Jim Lee and Topher Gardner came on, and
Those guys?
Listen to me, bro.
Those weather
they
experts?
dropped bomb. Dude, China has a weather manipulation system that's so
Bryan,
big.
let him talk. Jesus Christ, don't you know how to podcast?
It's so big, it's twice the size of Spain. That's how big it is. It's on
And
the
what are
Himalaya.
they doing with it, Sam?
We're working on a weapon called a sun gun, which would basically be ionizing the sky, so it would be like a magnifying glass, and you could just boom hit it.
Yes.
And that was in the 40s.
Right.
So the new thing. Okay, we'll watch fights out there.
No. But
No,
I mean,
keep going.
I like
We can
how
do
you're-
both.
But
I like
Bryan,
what you're saying.
why would you dismiss that?
No, I wouldn't dismiss it. I'm saying that that's not surprising that a country like China that has bad arable land needs to figure out a way to grow enough food for its population.
Right, but also weather modification technology. Like if they
Well, we've been doing
literally
that since
can
the
do
40s,
that though,
or
but
50s, right?
not at this scale.
Not to that scale.
Not even.
Capacity.
We started by
we've been
seeding
cloud
clouds.
seeding.
Right.
All right, so now on to Bryan calling out Joe for saying something stupid. And I think Bryan is one of the few people that would actually do this on Joe's podcast. Like, I think most other people that Joe has on would have just gone along with it and agreed with him. Like, obviously, Brendan and Sam were completely agreeing with him here. But Bryan actually calls him out. And what Joe's saying is pretty stupid. He's saying he likes what Russia's doing because they ban GMO foods and industrial farming. And Bryan's like, yeah, I don't know if I'd trust that. And Joe's like, Bryan, they're talking about it on TV. Like, you should just believe everything the Russian media is telling you. Like, that does sound pretty ridiculous. I mean, Joe will question all the media over here, which you should. I mean, you should try to think for yourself and question things. But you should also definitely do that when it comes to Russian state-sponsored television. I mean, for Joe to say he believes it because they talked about it on TV over in Russia sounds insane. And I think he even realized that, or I hope he realized that, because he does get pretty defensive here. Like, when Bryan calls him out, then Joe's like, Bryan, you're being annoying. And then, like I said in the beginning, there's a cut in the stream, and then it just goes to them during the fight. So I think Joe maybe told him to take it easy a little bit, even though Joe did spend like the whole podcast making fun of Bryan. And then when Bryan goes back at him and calls him out for saying something stupid, then Joe gets all defensive and he doesn't want to talk about it.
What sucks when a country that you're not supposed to like does some shit you agree with. Like, I'm not supposed to like Russia, but they banned GMO foods and they banned industrial farming. You can only farm organically over there.
Yeah, so they say. I don't know.
And
if that's
gender
Well,
reassignment
shut
surgery
up,
with
CIA
kids.
boy.
Yeah, come
Yeah.
on. Call me.
They're,
Why are you guys calling
they're
me CIA
fucking
boy?
talking about it openly on television, so letting everyone know that this stuff is not good for you. It's not good to have pesticides and
listen to me right
herbicides
now. I
and
don't buy a fucking thing the
Monsanto
Russians say, and
spread all over.
And you're buying it. You're buying.
You're
Putin
buying the
propaganda.
Ukraine info?
Why am I buying it? I'm
You-
not buying anything.
you're a
what
Putin shill.
I'm saying is they're talking about it on
my
television,
God.
Brian.
Fuck, you're a Putin
They're
shill.
ta- Brian,
should
you're
talk
being
about
annoying.
this.
They're talking about it on television. Much better.
That boy is tatted
I was
up.
gonna say very happy.
Yeah, so it is not a good sign when Bryan Callen seems like the most rational one in the room. And I'll say it was pretty ballsy for him to call Joe Rogan a Putin shill right to his face on his podcast. But let me know what you guys think about it all down in the comments. And then make sure you go check out my Patreon account. There's a ton of exclusive content up there. And I just posted a video about Russell Brand getting canceled. And I also talked about possibly one of the worst podcasts of all time. And I also talked about the time Patton Oswalt apologized for taking a picture with Dave Chappelle. And I also talked about, Kramer, Michael Richards' infamous meltdown at the Laugh Factory and the downfall of Milo Yiannopoulos and a bunch of other stuff. I think there's over 40 videos, and I post a 20, 30-minute video every week. So make sure you go check it out. I'll put a link in the description, and then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.